everybody. Welcome to my studio on this Halloween special. I am Jessica Henry Gray and I have a really fun project for you today. Decided we might just paint a raven. They are my favorite bird and they're often considered creepy, but I just love them. They're intelligent and beautiful. So I have one that we are going to paint today in the moonlight. I have it on my laptop behind me. So we are going to turn on some lights and have some fun with this raven. All right, let's jump in. Okay, so I'm here at my easel and I have an 11 by 14 canvas up here today, and I have my laptop sitting right next to me here. Right down below here is my palette, and today, even though I have a lot of colors out, I'm just going to be focusing on mostly using ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. I will be using a little bit of white and yellow ochre and so forth as I get more into painting the moon. But to begin with, it's just going to be these two, so the palette may be sitting down a little bit lower. You may not be able to see everything I'm doing, but if there's anything interesting, I'll show you. And I also have my can right down here of the odorless mineral spirits, and I have some linseed oil in a little can here on my palette. Okay, so brushes today, I'm just going to start out by toning the canvas with a little bit of burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. Mostly blue than brown, because I want it to have that midnight blue type feeling. Now this is darker than I need because I'm going to wipe some of it off. I found this image of this raven on copyright-free images on the internet. So that is where I found this. You can find all kinds of images out there to paint that are copyright-free. Just make sure that they are actually copyright-free. So now I've got my canvas here, and this canvas was slightly textured. It is a linen, and actually it was an older canvas that had an old painting on it that I put a coat of oil ground primer on it, not gesso. And I wanted to use it for this raven specifically because it had, you can kind of see, sort of an interesting old weathered textured look. And I think ravens kind of lend themselves to that old steampunk weathered sort of appeal. So I'm going with the horizontal format too on this because I want to put the moon over here. Taking a smaller brush, this is my flat size 4 blue burnt sienna. Now I want to first loosely just kind of jot down where I think he should live on here. And I love this image where he's just sort of in flight, and I'll show you this picture as I'm going along. So if his wings, if this top wing is in this area, and the head comes out, what would it be like if it was like that? And there are some things that really give away the fact that it's a raven and not a crow. You want to look for those things if you're interested in being authentic. Crows are interesting birds, but they are not ravens. Ravens they have a much larger brain capacity, and their wingtips that out here where they open up and splay are more like fingers, like an eagle has that open. So it's too big, so I'm going to make this all smaller. Ravens also have a very easy to identify fantail when they're flying. So let's put this wing shape in this area, and the other one down here. So he's going to come out like this, and the head and tail will be right in there. So that kind of makes it a little bit easier when you have that ballpark. And that is something I love about oils. It's so easy to fix your mistakes. Just kind of figuring out where those elements are going to end up being. I think I'm still going, maybe he's meant to be that big on my canvas. Flight feather, flight, flight, flight. In the back, I'll always be thinking about where that anatomy is going to make sense in the bird. And as an artist, you know, and such a beautiful bird, whether you're painting an eagle or a chickadee, a hummingbird, it doesn't matter. That the time to try to get it as accurate as possible, because they're so beautiful, really just so beautiful. These gorgeous flight feathers, wingtips, how they flip up like that. Now, what I loved about this particular image was how the bird had this wonderful flight shape, but there was also the sense of light hitting the wings. And so I'm going to play with that more with the moon up in here. So if I put the anatomy of the wing here, it'll all be dark. And then the darker back. And that tailbone comes down like this, but there's lighter hitting these back feathers back in there. And this is all really dark in here. Then we start getting a little bit lighter on this wing. Okay, so I'm going to clean off a brush and rub that out. I wanted to say too, while I'm kind of busy laying down this foundation and getting this painting started, I mentioned on the video last week about the workshops coming up, and that I would love to meet you at one of my workshops. The Paris one, the one in France, is full. The last spot was taken today, and so if you are interested in that one, then we're going to start a waiting list, and just know that people do often cancel. We've had a few cancellations already, and we're grateful that we were able to fill those quickly. So if you are interested still, it's we can put you on a list, and still quite a ways away from the workshop. So anyway, there's that. But we also have Destin, Florida next year, April 22nd to the 25th. And that one is starting to fill. We have a few spots left. Probably about 6 spots available in that. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I think that we're going to try to fit in a few more, just because these two started really filling up quite quickly. So we'll keep you posted about any more than that. But if you'd like to stay up to date on what workshops I do have coming up, go to my website at jessicahenryfineart.com, and in there I will be, if you sign up for my newsletter, I keep people posted on what's going to be my most recent and most upcoming workshops, and we're always talking about things like that, and so, and any events that I have coming up. if you're interested, you can sign up for that newsletter. We also have the Renaissance Academy. Very excited about that. That's been, we're wrapping up our 2nd year, but you can join at any time and for the whole year or just the modules, portrait, plein air, painting, drawing, composition, you know, anything you'd need to know to make yourself a more well-rounded artist. If you want to begin plein air or gosh, anything. After I do this portrait session, we're almost done with the year 2 portrait module. I'm going to be getting into painting animals. Last year we did painting horses, and that was cool. I had a guest teacher for that. This year I'll be teaching more about painting a dog and painting a bird for the Renaissance Academy. Learning more about painting feathers and all that. But the portrait session that we just had, just wrapping up, was really just, oh my gosh, it was fantastic. We had a guest teacher for that. His name is Richard Sturgles. He came to us from California. Beautiful lesson in portraiture. He did 3 lessons for us. And but yeah, there's more of that. There's a link to Renaissance Creative Arts, or I'll just put a link down below if you'd like more information on how you can get in on our holiday deals and all of that with the Renaissance Creative Arts, Renaissance Academy of Fine Arts. So take a gander. Okay, so I think that pretty much gets the bird in place. All right, so now I'm going to get the moon on here where I want it. Kind of interested in figuring out size and placement. What seems right? So if we go about that size, do some clouds around it. Maybe I'll put a little bit of land down below here. Okay, all right, so now I'm going to take a bigger brush and block in the background, taking ultramarine blue. I think I'll put a little bit of white in with that ultramarine blue. So this is what I'm doing here on my palette. A little bit of white in with that ultramarine blue. And I'm going to grab some of this linseed oil just to thin that down a little bit. It's a big brush and that's a lot of paint. There we go. Just a touch of burnt sienna will tone that down a little and make it more midnight bluish. Yeah, I can use this background to sculpt out around the wings a little more. I think about ravens sometimes, even just while I'm painting or doing different things. They're such a wonderful bird, so intelligent. I've looked into owning one for years. You can't own a domestic American raven, but you can own like an African raven. It's considered an exotic bird, and they're not cheap, but you can teach them all kinds of things. They talk actually more than even parrots. They make great pets. You just have to know what you're doing. They're very intelligent and they bond with you. And so you can't just decide you want one and then decide later that you don't. So they are a commitment. But yeah, I've looked into one There's this company, I think in one of the Carolina states, that makes raven diapers, little black raven diapers. So you can travel with your raven. It's good fun. All right, so I added a little bit of white to the blue background, just to give the night sky a sense of air. I also want to provide a little contrast too. So I'm taking now a very dark mixture for the land down below. Maybe I'll put a little bit of light hitting that just to show that there is something down there. Okay, grabbing some white and yellow ochre, going right into the atmosphere around the moon. It's kind of a fun project if you want to just relax and play with paint. More yellow ochre into that white. A little texture on our moon. Now to just run some clouds across the surface. Going in through here and just mixing up the darkest, painting the darkest areas first. Okay, so when I get it to this point, I kind of want to just isolate information, hone in details, and bring some parts to a finish and then play and splash with other parts. So I've got some highlights in place. I'm going to clean my brush off and get a little bit more clarity in the highlights. So just taking some white, just regular white. And I think that I may just stick with white. And I want to get these in exactly the right place. And take your time with each brush stroke. This is the moonlight shining through the wingtips and hitting the glossy blackness below. And now there's light hitting the wingtip edges. Oops, that's too thick. I want to tone that down a little, but do this last one first. Okay, the light's coming through and hitting back here on these tail feathers. It's still pretty dark though. Now to really make that show up, I'm going to lighten the sky around it a little bit more. Just some white and ultramarine blue, mixing it right into what I had here with a little bit of sienna in it. It's too bright. So now I'm going to get a little bit of information on the claw in here. Just going to take some of this dark. I'm seeing that it comes down like this, back like this. And then just some of those highlights on there. Okay, now I'm just gonna play a little bit with the edges and soften some things. Really capture the feeling of flight. I'm gonna lose some of this information up here. I want to take kind of an older brush, and I'm going to take some white, make a soupy mixture right here. This is a really old brush. It's stiff, and I keep it around for stiff things like splattering, whatever. Can play with it a little that way. All right, well, that wraps up this Halloween special. Thank you for joining me painting this raven. I hope that you enjoyed it. Remember to check the links below about the workshops and my website newsletter. I'll be happy to hear from you, and I always enjoy your comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. All right, you guys, have a wonderful week and a safe Halloween. Till next week.